Welcome to HBCU Her Voice, a place where we celebrate the powerful voices and stories of remarkable women from historically Black colleges and universities. I'm your host, Tanaira Washington, a proud HBCU graduate myself. I'm thrilled to bring you this platform dedicated to amplifying the voice of our community. We dive into inspiring stories of resilience, success, and the incredible impact these women are making in the world. From trailblazing entrepreneurs to innovative leaders, we bring you the stories that matter, showcasing how HBCU experiences shape paths and fuel passions. We'll explore challenges, victories, and wisdom. Whether you're an HBCU alum, a student, faculty member, supporter, or simply someone who believes in the power of diverse voices, we are so glad to have you. So listen up as we share insights, celebrate achievements, and uplift our community. Together, we can inspire the next generation of leaders and ensure our voices are heard loud and clear. A grand welcome to HBCU Her Voice. You already know what time it is. I am Tanaira Washington, your fabulous host of the HBCU Her Voice podcast. No secret, it's one of my favorite places to be because we bring the real stories, the real emotions, and we just have a real good time. We're going to kick the show off as we always do. We have another fabulous guest that I'm so happy to interview and learn more about. Her name is I'm not going to tell you because what does she do? Come to the stage, tell us her name, where she's streaming from, which HBCU she's repping, and then guess what? We get that story. Without any further ado, here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanaira Rounds. I am currently streaming from Talladega, Alabama. I am representing none other than Talladega College. We are the oldest liberal arts HBCU in the state of Alabama.
Got a first. Had to pop in real quick because we got a first. Mm-hmm. We got a first on the show. She is the first one representing her university, so we got to show her some love out there at HBCU Her Voice podcast land because she's going to be that number one representative for her school, and we're going to let her just talk about what she does, and we'll come back and then jump more into Ms. Round's story.
Awesome. Thank you. So, yes, I am not born in the South. I am originally from South Central Los Angeles. Born and raised, I carry that very deeply into my heart. I come from a very, very tight-knit home. I have 5 sisters, 5 beautiful sisters who are absolutely my heart, and then my mother and father. And so throughout my life, I always played sports. I was really into academics and in sports. You know, I was a bio major. I was like, I don't say the term nerd, but I was a nerd, but I was also a jock, right? So I did both. I graduated from King Drew. Some people know it as the same place they hold Drew League. So I graduated from King Drew, went for undergrad at Talladega College. I always tell people Talladega wasn't my first choice, but it was the absolute best choice for me. Like, I would never change my experience for anything. There, I played volleyball. After I graduated with my bachelor's, of course, I played Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Theta, first in the state as well. You know, there's a lot of firsts at Talladega College. So our Delta chapter is the first Delta chapter in the state of Alabama. I bounced around from Shreveport, Atlanta, just kind of figure out what I wanted to do. When COVID happened, so fast forward to COVID, I had my opportunity to come back to Talladega College to be the head volleyball coach. I did that for 2 years. I also was the SWA at Talladega College. And then that is when I decided to get my master's degree. So I have a master's in business with the concentration of management. I got that from Talladega. So I'm a double alum of Talladega. And now I've had the opportunity at Talladega to work as the director of intercollegiate academic teams. So it's a fancy way to say competitive academic teams. So I work with teams like esports, speech and debate, quiz bowl, chess, any brain sport, brain game. That's me. That's my bread and butter. I absolutely love it. It's been an interesting journey, definitely new in the space. Not something I thought I would ever be doing, but it's just queuing in on those opportunities of me being heavily into STEM, heavily into science, as well as having a love and passion for sports. So the combination has been completely interesting. I believe that everybody has a competitive spirit, and that's literally what my, I guess, vision, motive is for everything. I want everybody to be able to hone in on that competitive spirit, whether if it's physical, mental. You shouldn't be limited about your abilities to be able to do and compete, because everybody, no one wants to lose. Everybody wants to win. So that's my spill on who I am, and I love the journey I'm on. I'm whatever path I'm leading, I'm making sure I'm the best at it.
I absolutely love it that you have brought Talladega here. Okay. So just FYI, we need some more Talladega women for the next season, because that's one of the HBCUs that many people were like, huh? I didn't even know. I never heard of it. It's one of those, right? So part of this platform is not just to bring the first ones that come to everybody's mind, but the ones that, maybe are not heard of as much or just not as popular. So, you passing the torch. We got to get another Talladega lady on this podcast as the year turns over. That's first and foremost. Now, the second thing I like is that you've had a kind of all-encompassing journey with Talladega, because you've been the student, you've been back on the other side, and now you work for them. Now, one of the things that when I was reading your information, so I have to have you talk about this, because you said one of the challenges you faced was stepping into that head volleyball coach role, that you had extreme challenges there. And I know that it was new and it probably felt like a very good opportunity, but sometimes even in our opportunities, we have those, oof. I want you to talk about your challenging walk there, and what did you do to kind of shore yourself up for that ride?
Okay. So for me, I had a love for volleyball. I grew up as a basketball girl. Funny thing is, my basketball coach in high school said, you have to play an off-season sport. I chose volleyball because I really thought I wasn't even going to make the team. I made the team, fell in love with it. Volleyball became a big part of who I was. I was coaching in Shreveport, and when COVID hit, I was like, you know what? I'm just applying everywhere, trying to, see opportunities. And when Talladega called me back, I thought it would be assistant coaching position. So I never did the assistant coaching at the collegiate level. I went straight from high school right into head coach. And that was at the beginning of COVID. That's when they weren't sure if we were going to have a season for the fall, if we were going to have to push it back to the spring. So my very first time as a head coach, I coached fall and spring during COVID, trying to maneuver in that space. So that was already a lot. And I was 25, just turning 26. I had students on my team who were 22, 23. So that was very interesting as well. I feel like we did our best during that time and made sure everybody was safe. That following year, that leaves me at 20. So that's 2020, 2021. That was my first true, I got to recruit a little bit. But even then at our school, we was going through a huge change. We had a new AD. We had new president. It was just a big transition as administration-wise at our school. So the following year, we joined a new conference, which is SSAC. And one of the largest challenges I never thought I would ever have to face in the position I was in, especially when I was finally getting my groove, finally getting comfortable as a head coach, it was a big situation where during the conference tournament banquet, one of my students had got airdropped a racially motivated picture. Me being as shocked, mind you, I'm 26, 27 years old. I'm like, my only idea was I have to make sure again, it's a safe place to admit that there was only 2 HBCUs in this conference, us being one and Stillman being the other. However, we're the only predominantly Black team in our conference, even though Stillman was there. So we got it. I'm like, my first instinct was I need to make sure my players are comfortable and safe. Period. So with that, I made the decision to leave the banquet in the middle of the banquet. Actually, while the commissioner was talking, and it was honestly my adrenaline. I knew I had to make sure my students were safe. I honestly didn't think about any other consequence. I wanted to make sure my student athletes were safe. We left. Conversations were had, things were had, and then ultimately, with the combination of me, my team, and then administration agreed that it was best to just step down from the tournament as a whole. It made it to things like ESPN and CNN. So that was such a huge step. But I feel like it was one of the things that shaped me, that I knew that I was always taught to stand up for what you believe in, fight for those. If you have the voice or you the position to fight for those who need to be to fight for, then you take it. And sometimes people never have to actually be in front of that. Sometimes it's always good. It's always a thing like, oh, what I would do if I was, what I would. And in that, I had, I guess, a split second to figure out what I actually would do and who I actually was. And I feel like that is a big part of my journey.
Heavy segment, Miss Rounds. Heavy segment there. So a couple things from that. So that believe it or not, it was a transformative period in your life because there were so many different things that happened during that.
Yeah.
Right. It's the head volleyball coach. It's COVID. It's the pandemic. It's a different leadership over you that you're navigating through different leadership. These are a lot of different components. So I'm just walking it out. I'm just sitting back here listening to it and hearing all the things of change and new that was happening at one time. All right. It wasn't easy. I'm happy to be looking at you on this side of it. And
yeah,
I'm serious. To be talking to you in a space that feels good. A lot. 2020 was one of those years for me where I had crazy, scary change on top of the pandemic. Right. And now that we're coming back around from this thing, I would say like 2 years later, because it kind of lasted for 2.5 years, many of us are not having out loud conversations about the amount of compound change that happened for a lot of us during that time. Yeah. And I said, I wouldn't be surprised that if a decade from now that many books and many pieces of literature and stuff comes out about that period, because so many people, we were just trying to survive. We were just trying to do the thing.
Yeah, but it was like the fight or flight.
And when you come back, sometimes you're like, dang, that was really a lot of different levels of change, because, even without pandemic, some of the things you were dealing with was huge. So thank you for sharing that piece of information about the racially charged message. I commend you right now. You have to accept my roses for courage. And being someone that says, I am concerned about the safety of these students, period. Now, in hindsight, maybe there were things you would have done differently, right? But for me to stand here and hear you say that and hear the passion in your voice for you wanting to keep your students safe means a lot to me. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because the term safe always was so one leaded to some people, because some people mean like, well, we weren't physically in danger, but it's like, especially during that time, being height of mental health, understanding that, I felt like I need to make sure my students were emotionally whole. And I feel like that was a big part of being safe too, mentally and emotionally, that people sometimes forget about.
I will go on and say this quickly, we're going to move, but the importance of psychological safety, it can't be overstated. You know what I mean? There's so many different ways to attack it and to be able to talk about it, but a lot of people sweep it under the rug. And specifically doing this project and being able to speak to so many women in really such a short amount of time, it has really taught me even more about the psychological safety and mental health. And we're talking about women of all walks, women of all titles that come and have this come in place and tell me that I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. So for people to be on the outside, looking in and, pointing fingers and this and that, it just lets me know, and I'm using this term loosely, how ignorant they are to the variety of problems and the mission at large, basically, as it surrounds mental health and psychological safety. So I just want to say that. So yeah, I'm sitting here, girl, You see, I got my pen. I've been back there. I said, oh, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I got to jot that down so I don't forget to say that. So thank you for that. Now let me go here, and then we'll probably kind of touch back on this again before we close. But you blend kind of STEM and sports. I think it's a beautiful mesh, and a very unique mesh of worlds, basically. Tell me about how that started. How did you start to bridge the gap kind of between STEM and sports? Did you always have an interest in STEM? I know you were always an athlete and you always played. Where did that STEM layer come from?
Okay, so my mom always put us in. So from a young age, I was always in magnet medical schools. Being from LA, I didn't go to my home schools; they weren't necessarily safe. So, I would get bussed out maybe an hour and a half from our school, from my home school. So I was always in medical magnet schools. Even in high school, I was at King Drew Medical Magnet School. That's actually, just to know, it's actually next door to the only HBCU in California, Charles Drew Medical School. It's actually next door, and we have partnerships with them. So I grew up seeing that aspect of HBCUs as not necessarily the social aspects of HBCUs. But I also was a bio major, and I was a math nerd. I taught math in straight out of high school in Shreveport, so I taught math as well. So I've always STEM, and I guess the sciencey side of me has always been there. The full blend of it would be shortly after that it was like, okay, I'm already been recruiting. I had a very good recruiting track record, a very good retention track record with my students, and graduation percentage with my team and the athletics in general. Because being an SWA, I was making sure that we were incorporating more tutoring and things like that amongst our students. So they saw that and they were like, okay, we were trying to do something different. We have esports now. I was on the chess team at Talladega College. Well, that's when it was a club. I was on the chess club when I was in Talladega. I was on the poetry. I did Mahogany Nights was the poetry club on our campus. So I was always big on students are not one-dimensional. Just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you're only an athlete. Just because you might like chess doesn't mean you only like chess. It's the holistic option, outlook of students. So when I know a lot of my administration would talk about that a lot, and then when they create this position, they were like, "Well, Tanaira, how do you feel about it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a new opportunity." And the first thing is our esports program already had a esports director, but they knew that I understood the recruiting side of it. I understood the production side of it. So they were like, okay, let's just start with you helping him. And I learned so much from him every day. But with that, it expanded to coding teams and turning the chess club into a chess team. And then, hey, what other options do we have out there? That's what we have Model UN and speech and debate. And the academic team started growing. And I think that it is different from me having the background in sports, that I bring the entertainment aspect of these academic teams. Because sometimes they aren't looked at as competitions in sports, because that's what they are. They're just non-traditional sports. And I kind of bring that lively competition, I bring that sports aspect to it a little bit more. So it's working really well.
I love that. And see, that's where that collaboration piece comes in for me, because there could be this thing, right? But it just take a little piece of another world to make it more sellable or more entertaining or more community around it or whatever. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, I want to see how this plays on each other. But I like that you mentioned that you brought that piece to it, because some things that, just face it and be honest, guess what? I was a bio major too, girl. I was a bio major. I was a bio major and a chem minor, and I pretty much was a science kid all the way through, from elementary all the way through college. That's what I graduated with. And then how I ended up in the financial service and then communications. Don't ask me, Miss Rounds. It just happened. Life,
Yeah, I feel the same way. I promise I feel the same way, because people don't realize it's a whole different aspect, because being a STEM girl, you're usually thinking of just logical things, how like the answer. You're usually, for me, I was a little bit more, I won't say antisocial, but I was so in my books that I thought I just needed chemicals. I needed my chemicals. I needed my microscope. That's all I needed. And getting into the field that, even though I love volleyball, so I started coaching, that social aspect and that really that social aspect, something that I thought I didn't want, but something that now that I feed off of, and it's kind of my calling when it comes to that aspect. And in STEM, I didn't quite get that, but in only athletics, I didn't quite get the logic part too. So the combination of both is, I feel like a lot of students might actually feel that connection.
Yes, for sure. Because no matter how I try to fight it, I'm still wired like a math and science kid. I just want to be honest. All I can do is tell my truth. Okay, I'm still wired like a science and math kid. Like this is just happened to be kind of like a calling on purpose. This is truly beyond me, right? So when I get up and do this, people are like, well, how do you do this? It's so far away from your normal antisocial stuff you've always grown up to be. How are you hosting the podcast? I was like, because this is truly calling, right? This, if it was based on me and my wit it wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't be happening. I'm still very much wired like that because I'm just trying to figure out, okay, here's what we have. Here's what we can kind of test with, and I don't get an answer. Like all this other stuff is a little bit extra for me, but I worked it out. I'm learning to come into other worlds and do other things and be able to facilitate conversation where that really wasn't a part of who I was and how I operated and did my work for a very, very long time. For a very long time. So when I have, when I see things, I see worlds like kind of meshed or whatever, it really, really kind of sparks my antenna because I'm like, I wish the world could just be more open to that. You might not always just love the thing I specifically do, but there could be some pointers and skill sets and how you just kind of operate your world that could be an asset really to what I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I just wanted to hear how you bring that together. And I love it, by the way. That is absolutely beautiful and amazing. Now, I have to ask you this because when I was reading this and I see someone, I said, let me ask her about this because she mentioned a Battle of the Brains competition that she led a team to victory on. First off, Battle of the Brains sounds fire. I don't know what it is. So tell us what Battle of the Brains is and tell us about that triumphant victory.
Yeah, Battle of the Brains. So we have a coding and hacking team. People think of hacking, it's usually all negative, but we do ethical hacking because any big corporation, any big company needs hackers, right? Because they're pretty much showing, hey, this is where your system is weak. This is how you develop apps. Coding and hacking is in everybody's day-to-day, especially with computer science and AI being so prominent. So with that team, it was very interesting. That's what hacking and coding is. Like, you code apps, use different programming languages, usually our computer science. But with Battle of the Brains, you also have to pitch, which a funny thing, the same people who do Battle of the Brains is the same. Have you ever heard of the, was it Black Sports Synopsis? And they usually have it in Atlanta. It's actually the same people, which is funny because it's also academics mixing with athletics. So, but it's very interesting where the students, they absolutely love it. It is, their main sponsor is the NFL. Of course, they have so many other amazing sponsors, and it's only HBCUs. So it's been going on for like 7 years. This is our first year joining. So I'm like, hey guys, we just gonna keep practicing, try our best, and let's just see how it goes. Because we're competing against 35, 40 other HBCUs. When you go, there's, we get to meet companies like Dell and other major sponsors, but the real grit of the competition, it's a 24-hour pitch competition. So the students do not know what the problem is. This year, the problem had to do with how do we incorporate AI into NFL. So, the NFL Plus app, they were trying to get them to kind of create an AI extension. And that can be whatever you think how they can benefit. So I got together some of our business majors because they're good with pitches and business plans, our coding majors, or some computer science people, and I think maybe one English major was on the team. And pretty much they have 24 hours, the beginning of the day, 7 a.m., they get told the problem. They have 24 hours to create an app and to be able to create a pitch, to pitch it in front of real NFL CEOs, COOs from all walks of life. We end up getting second place the very first year. Only the top 7 can do their pitch. We got top 7, pitched, got second place. So that was really interesting. But the craziest idea is these students have 24 hours to do this. And honestly, if we have more information, our app probably could physically work right now. It's really cool to get our students to think about not only the STEM and the coding side of it, but the social side of it. Will these people actually use the app? It has to be useful. That's where the business mind aspect come from. And then you have to think about financially, how much would this app cost? Would it be worth producing it versus how much money it would bring in? So I still have to think about all that in 24 hours. And we do a lot of other 24-hour pitches, but that was probably, as I talked to them, the most time consuming. Most of our students, the longest our students slept was one young lady. She slept for 3 hours. Everybody else kind of stayed up for 20 to 23 hours. One of my gentlemen didn't sleep at all. So for 24 hours, he was up, made the app, pitched the app, won. Yeah. So it's a lot.
What? That's amazing. I mean, I'm surprised. I've never heard of it. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. I mean, are you guys going to do it next year? Was it this year?
Yes, that's all. So throughout the year, we do join different hackathons, is what they're called.
That's
so either pitch competition or hackathons. Majority of them are 24 hours. Like I've sent some students to Hack Harvard, which we had 2 students last year go qualify for Hack Harvard. So I sent them to Harvard University to do a hackathon. We just did Be Smart hackathon. We actually won 3rd place in that. That was 2 weeks ago, where our students, the main sponsor is American Airlines, and of course with a lot of other sponsors, and they do another hackathon. They create a problem. Every year is different, and these students do not know what the problem is until the beginning of that 24 hours. So it's very challenging on them. And we have, just like regular traditional sports, we have practices. We make sure everyone's coding on the same language. And of course, I really lean on my faculty to help with a lot of those things. Again, I'm not a hacker, but anything that I kind of learn, I make sure I understand the idea of practices and what that would look like, what a pitch would look like, what picking the team would look like. Because we do a lot of different competitions throughout the year. We got to make sure the correct people are on those teams. And then it's great because they get to work with mentors across the actual field they're trying to join. And a lot of our students end up getting internships. They socialize with their peers. They get to talk to other HBCU students. So that's always really opening for them, especially when they get to travel for different competitions, or those are those people who are going to be in the same field with them. So I think it's just a really good opportunity overall. We're going to do it every year if we can.
So, okay, look, I didn't. Where did it take place?
That one is in Austin, Texas. They usually do it in the, what is that called?
In Austin?
Yeah. What is it called?
Every year?
Yeah, it's
or they rotate cities. Or
no, that one they have. I want to say the one they have for the Latino schools is also in Austin, but ours in Austin is what is that called? It's a big business, like a week of business, and at the end of the week they have a big like music festival. It's like,
it's not the South by Southwest, is it?
South by Southwest. It's during that
week. Stop playing with me. You better stay in contact with me, because next year I need to be. It's
during that. It was that week prior to. So the actual competition day was the first or second day of that week. They kind of set it up so it's during that same thing, because it's still business pitch. It's still that kind of environment. So yeah, it's during that time.
Okay, now I'll have to you're 2 hours away. That's right up the street. I mean, that is absolutely amazing, because this actually is a great segue to this. I want to ask you a final question here, because one of the things that was, in the intake form was, advocating and telling Black and brown people that esports and these STEM things are wasted investments. It's not. I don't know, maybe because I'm a nerd. I was back here like, oh, okay. I love that segment, because that is absolutely amazing. I never even, had heard of the 24-hour pitch. And, I hear about lots of different kinds of pitches just with emails and different lists and stuff that I'm on and just being in the business world. But I honestly had never heard of that one. So this is your pitch right now, because we turn this right on back on Mr. Rounds, because in that intake form, you were saying it's been a struggle with our communities and seeing these type of things being, wasted time and, it's not a valuable skill set. I want you now to tell them why. I mean, if you didn't already hear the last segment, there's a big reason why. I give you this opportunity to speak on that so that people can hear that from someone who is advocating and working the ground in this type of space.
Yes. So I think a big thing is with our esports. It's really hard to get parents and grandparents who are raising the next generation of students to understand that there's video games are no longer just video games. One, you can get paid for them, and it's $1 trillion industry. And honestly, even when we done things like the Infocom, which is the largest, tech or visual audio conference in North America, we got invited to that twice to play video games. And a lot of the audio and visual people, they actually like to hire people who have interest or some kind of experience in esports, because you already have the idea of network, you already have the idea of visual, you already have the idea of teamwork, communication skills are A1 because of it. They don't understand that collegiate esports isn't the same as video games either. You have that skill, but you're doing practices, you're studying maybe maps on Call of Duty, or you're studying your communication tactics in Rocket League. So, and there's opportunities to stream. There's opportunities to learn how to, like, we bring in our mass media production team to help us with the production of it, so they can live stream, shadowcast. There's money in this, and there's opportunities in it. So just because the students are behind a computer and not outside playing, which I feel like I advocate, go outside, play, get the sun, but there are opportunities to still be competitive, and there's opportunities to still win, or financially still win money, but also to socialize. People associate video games and coding and hacking as you're in this dungeon in the dark. In reality, they're socializing on a different level. And I feel like that's so big, especially coming out. Like we were talking about COVID, especially coming out of COVID, when a lot of these students didn't have to socialize. And yeah, it might not look like how socializing looked like to you and me, where it's face to face, but sometimes these students have to talk and communicate and create quick tactics at the drop of a dime with their teammates who are sitting next to them, or their teammates are across the screen. So I feel like understanding that just because we don't understand it as a Black community doesn't mean something to the next generation. The same thing, I'm sure our parents and our grandparents thought the things that we're doing wasn't a real job. And I just want to have people understand that times are changing, environments are growing, and the way people function will be affected by these people. So you can't be afraid of AI when you might have a student who creates the next version of AI right in front of you, but you don't want them to be on that computer.
And guess what? The more information that you get about the next wave of stuff, the more you're able to process it, because people will say all this stuff, AI, this, and they don't read no updates. They just get, you don't even understand what it's looking to do, or what the next wave, what if it is. It's not just about robots coming to take over the world. Mm-hmm. There are some powerful things that are coming out of AI. And girl, I wish we had another hour, because I could talk about this kind of stuff.
Okay,
I'm not throw Ms. Rounds. Let's go here. Make sure you drop right now on the podcast. Let us know we can contact you at, whether it's just a social media name or handles or website or anything you want to give for a connection. Go ahead and provide that now.
Yes, I'm usually on LinkedIn. You type in Tanaira Rounds on LinkedIn. I am also on X or Twitter. Coach T Rounds on Instagram, Coach T Rounds. Please reach out to me. My email address is tanaira.rounds@gmail.com. Just to connect. I love to hear what's going on in your spaces. I love to learn more about my space and learn more about athletics in general and administration in general. However, would like to connect, please connect with me. I am an open book, and I would love to see what information we can swap.
I absolutely love it. And believe it or not, we've made it to the end of our podcast. Actually, a little bit over. Look, actually, a little bit over, but I have to cue to you for final thoughts. This is the part in our episode where we say, hey, look, if nobody sees anything but this, we want to give you, we want you to give us some good parting words to this space and something that really captures the essence of Tanaira Rounds. So over to you for final thoughts.
My motto in my life is trust the process, enjoy the journey. So whether your passion is in sports, academics, there is a lane for you, there is a place for you, and you matter. So continue to socialize, continue to do it for, again, I do it for my people. Remember your why and let that move through you. That is my statement. That's what I go by. And you matter. There's a place where you belong.
I absolutely love it. And I tell you guys, miraculous things happen when you let your voice shine. I would never leave this place without telling you that I love you. And we'll be back with really, in no time, with another amazing woman on the HBCU Her Voice podcast. Thank you, Miss Rounds. We love you, and we're out.